program with the outreach program with Greater Greenville Mental Health at the Department of Mental Health. And then some, just some other areas where county funding and areas where we've seen significant investment in homeless prevention and that kind of thing. So when we talk about data snapshot on the first page, these are two of the biggest data sources that we have in the system as point in time count, as well as, and we, guys, if you want to, by the way, if you want to see the report on your phone, if you'd rather do that, you click the QR code, right? And pull up the briefs. I didn't want to go through this exhaustively, just hit the highlights, so bear with me. So that the big takeaway from the point in time count was it's rising. 655 individuals were counted in Greenville County. And I think one of the good things though, if we can say they were not all unsheltered, 482 of those individuals did reside in shelter. So yay team for shelter services, a large majority of folks in shelter. But 168 of those were chronic homeless that we reported on. And so that number is also up. And we believe that that is just a one-time, one-night count. We do not believe that there are only 168 individuals in Greenville County that are chronically homeless. We do not believe that. This is just that one-night count. And then the McKinney-Vento data. There is a trend in McKinney-Vento data that it continues to rise. The data that we reported in this report for 23 was the last data that we had aggregated, which was 21 data. So that 1,000 children now in the 2022 report, according to McKinney-Vento, is now 1,300. We also realized that as we were talking with the GHA leadership in UHC, is that 21 data really was not, it was not reflective because people were not in school, it was virtual learning, some showed up, some didn't. So really this 2022 count, which is now reported this year, is probably the more accurate. So, but understanding that nearly 79 to 85% of our students that are in grades K5 to 8th grade are experiencing some type of homelessness. Most of them doubled up with other family or friends and in hotels. And so that's the systems snapshot, the homeless system response for coordinated entry, which is a program that UHC and all CoCs have in their system. Coordinated entry is created to house the most vulnerable. It's assessment and a score on one side, but also a great opportunity on the other side for our wonderful service providers to case conference folks and make sure that we're fitting people to the right housing and serving the most vulnerable. So in coordinated entry, the big takeaway here is we've got about 300 households in coordinated entry, and that's just our system. Like that's not every system. That's just HMIS, coordinated entry. So can you imagine that represents more than 500 individuals just in our system that don't have a place to call home. And then the Veterans Effective Zero Master List program. While that program has helped or assisted more than 700 veterans since 2018, only about half of those were housed because of not having enough housing opportunity over that time. Right now in Greenville, we have 36 active veterans on the master list. It's actually, since this report, it's up to about 44. But we continually add, house, and take people off. And so it's a moving target all the time. And then in homeless prevention programs, we had two programs we looked at, the ESG Emergency Solutions Grant funds that many organizations in this room utilize every year for homeless prevention dollars. Also, this includes the COVID funding. So 893 individuals served with that funding. And, folks like Greenville Redevelopment Authority, Share, Salvation Army, Pendleton Place, UHC, United Ministries, all put that money out to the community. And then rental assistance program, only one thing I want you all to know is we have an increasing number of single parent women who are living in their cars with their children. And that is grown since the pandemic. And we do not have most households that we serve with that money, and we served over 2,000 households so far. They are mostly women, students of 25 and 44, African Americans with children. And so what's happening is
40
at the $1,500 to $2,500 a month level, if we can no longer pay that rent, those folks will be at risk for eviction. And we've got to do something. And then interim housing, thanks to Ryan and Miracle Hill, we've aggregated all the data for shelters, including Sal and others. 2,300 folks were served in shelter last year. The thing you should remember is that
wants to go over the pork.
Yes, are from
Those two things, the veggies and the pork.
more than 58% are from the upstate. So we are serving other folks now from outside of our community, but we are serving a large portion of folks that come right from here. All right, so there's some other information, and so I'd love to have you all ask your questions. You can send me an email at lcrowd@uhcsc.org if you'd like additional information. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good. So I'm going to give y'all an update on advocacy and our policy agenda, and I apologize, my colleague Tina is not here. So I'm going to try to do her justice. So first we have this SC House Bill 3844. That was for the eviction right to counsel. And unfortunately, that one did not pass into the Senate, so that will not go anywhere this term. However, obviously, it's something I think we definitely need to continue to work on. The next is the Greenville Development Code and emergency shelters. So we have been working diligently on the code. We've spoken for the code and had a lot of positive changes as it relates to slowing averaging of rents for required AMI targets, which will allow us to go deeper and lower in AMIs. We thought that was very important. They also added tiered incentives, so incentives that will provide deeper affordability, but we're still asking that they could go even lower. We're really trying to get them to go to the 30% AMI. So at least at like 5% for 30% AMIs as it relates to incentives. So fingers crossed we will get there. And then also we have been asking this, for the city code to focus on emergency shelters, make sure they're zoned properly in the new code. Because obviously what we know, especially from what Lorraine just mentioned, we have a lot of area to improve as it relates to emergency shelters, and clearly a lot of people who need them. So let's see, next is the SC Senate Bill 284. And then House Bill 4213, and those were for local accommodation tax for workforce housing. So it'll allow accommodation taxes to assist and provide funding for affordable housing, which we thought was a great idea. So it went through the Senate with no problem, but right now it is stuck in the House Ways and Means Committee. So we're hoping it will go from there, get out of that committee. We do know that the hospitality, hospitality group has come out against it, or at least not against it, but do want to make some changes, meaning they want to encourage the majority of that housing to go to hospitality workers, which, I definitely think there's some areas that we can compromise there. But I think it's still in House Ways and Means because they're trying to work on compromising. And then lastly, Greenville County funding for Greenlink. This one is super important. So we know funding for Greenlink has been very tight. It remains to be super tight. And so if you think about if the budget gets cut even a tiny bit, that might mean, it will mean, not might, it will mean that service gets interrupted. And so we rely heavily on Greenville City and Greenville County. And so we know that they're both going through budgetary talks right now. And we really want to encourage y'all to, all your county council members, to say, we want to ensure that GreenLink stays funded at its current rate. I mean, they can go up if they want to, but at least we need to maintain the current rate of funding. And so if y'all could do that, there is also a meeting on the May 2nd and May 16th that you can attend to just encourage county council to continue the current funding. Because we all know that we are all tight on, transportation as it is. And so if we have any interruption in that, we'll have bigger problems. So we encourage you to definitely reach out to them for that.
And I just want, we have Erin Predmore here
Yes,
with
we
some
do.
t-shirts, so say about Erin and.
Yeah, you can wear one of those t-shirts, one nice one that Susan has on, very pretty. And that to the May 2nd and 16th meeting, and so she has some t-shirts for you.
So. Here's the meeting and this matters. Make sure you know that I care about it. That's all you gotta do. Super easy and you'll have t-shirts at the meetings as well. Yeah.
And
The ninth, is there meetings where people can come and speak on subjects not on the agenda? You need to have people that are talking about transit that night.
that is fantastic. So if y'all did not hear that, the 9th, May 9th, they have people that you can come and speak about subjects not on the agenda. And so we would really be good if we have a large group of people to go and talk about transit there. And wear your green shirts and invite your friends and your neighbors and your coworkers.
Yeah.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Good afternoon, I'm Julie Meredith with Safe Harbor. And like many or most organizations in this room, we definitely feel the impact of the affordable housing crisis with our clients. For many, it really feels like a journey that it's like a staircase without an end, a mountain with no summit. And I know that many other folks who are working with people who have experienced homelessness are feeling the same way. Which really leads us to what I'm going to talk about today, which is GOAL. Many of you are involved in GOAL. Some of you may be wondering, what is GOAL? So GOAL is Greenville Organized for Accountable Leadership. It's a network of congregations who are culturally, economically, and religiously diverse, coming together to make Greenville a more just place to work, live, and do business. So GOAL was just founded last year in 2022, and we immediately chose the issue of housing as one of the key issues to address. Of course, with affordable housing top of mind through my work at Safe Harbor and through some of the community work I do, I've been participating in GOAL's housing research committee this year. We've learned a lot and we've made a lot of great progress. And a lot of you in this room have been part of that, from Greenville Housing Fund, GHA, UHC, so many of the other partners I see here have helped us as we've tried to figure out best practices, what we should be asking for. We've talked to other communities as well to hear what's working towards affordable housing in other places around the country. And so this past month in March, GOAL made our big asks in the area of housing. This year, our asks were to Greenville City Council and Greenville County Council. We asked them to work towards finding funding and revenue streams to invest $10 million each from the city, $10 million from the county towards the development of affordable housing in Greenville. Within this ask, we also asked City and County Council to commit at least 30% of these funds annually towards making homes that are affordable for people who are at or below 30% of the area median income, which as many of us know, that's folks who are making about $27,000 a year annually or less for a family of 4. So I'm pleased to say that a majority of city council, including the mayor, said yes to this ask. Also, we had 3 county council members there, including Councilor Alan Mitchell, Ennis Fant, and Liz Seaman. The 3 of them were there and also said yes to this goal. So there's a lot more to be done, but I'm pleased with what we were able to do in this first year. We will be working towards following up with all of the council members, both city and county. The mayor was able to follow up with us last week in a meeting and shared that he has identified about 8.1 million, hopefully annually, towards affordable housing as he's looking at the future budget. We have a long way to go, and we'll be working also with the counselors to think about what can we do, especially for affordable housing to the 30% below AMI bracket, which we know is sorely lacking. I would just reiterate the need for advocacy at the county council level right now as they are working on their budget, especially if you're going out to talk about transit. Also talk about the importance of additional funding towards affordable housing on the county council level as they are about to finalize their 2-year budget, is my understanding. And also the bill that Tiffany mentioned earlier that is now up for expanding tourism tax dollars to be able to use towards affordable housing. Contact your local state senators and state legislators. Also Representative Bruce Bannister, who is part of the Ways and Means Committee, certainly has a lot of power there. So, oh, and if you're interested in goal, go to goaljustice.com to learn a little bit more. You don't have to be a part of one of the congregations to get involved. There's ways to get connected through that, or you can also reach out to me to ask questions. I'm just julie.meredith@safeharborsc.org. You can find me on our website too. So thanks.
Thank you.
So introducing everyone to Trey Cole. He is the developer that has developed the condos next door to Reedy Place, right over here on Calhoun. Actually, I'm not even sure what direction. Is that one? Okay. But you know, we've been neighbors since 2006. And one of the things we hear all the time when we talk about affordable housing and building affordable housing, price values are going to go down, crime's going to go up. You know, we don't want low income housing in our neighborhood. And so what we're trying to turn around is NIMBY to GIMBY. Yes, in my backyard. So I just wanted to introduce you all to Trey. Again, he built these beautiful condos next door to Reedy, and they've been neighbors. We've been neighbors since 2000. About 6-7 years. Yeah, 2000. I guess you guys purchased that property, and we were there in 2006. And so, were you afraid to build your condominiums next to Reedy Place?
No, it was, I mean, it was, what's kind of generally happened, in my opinion, downtown is there's a lot more diversity everywhere, and you've seen housing, there's much more of a mix of price points as opposed to your traditional neighborhood where every house in the neighborhood is the same price. So it's been very little resistance to that, and it's not been a real issue. And of course, I went and toured next door, and everybody was great. I mean, a great house over there, gave me a great tour. We talked about it, and we also live at the project, so we walk by Reedy Place probably 3 or 4 times a week. We walk our dog, we're out and about. We met lots of the residents there over the years, and it's just, I said, Laura, I don't really have a lot to talk about. It's just not been an issue. It's just been fine to be there, and it's been nice to be part of the community. And we sponsor the golf tournaments and do some other stuff over there, and it's been great. I think, you know, there's a lot of different levels of this kind of homeless housing, or what you're going to call it. It's really stable senior housing. It's much closer to that than anything else. You know, it's been a non-issue.
Well, we appreciate the partnership, and we appreciate you as a neighbor, and we thank you for your words today. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have the pleasure of speaking on a project that or a program that I was a part of under the Urban Land Institute, that was also sponsored by Community Works and the Greenville Housing Fund. So for those who are not familiar with ULI, ULI is one of the oldest and the largest networking groups for organizations, I should say, for real estate and land use professionals. So they do a lot of educational work around, again, anything involving real estate. So you could be market analyst, a developer, or small town developer who flip houses. So a lot of different things that you can do under their leadership. And this particular program that I took part in was a cohort specifically for people of color in the real estate development space. It was 12 weeks, and we went from starting what is a developer all the way to performance and creating our own market analysis. So we had a case study, and each group, there was 3 different groups. My group's name was MBY, which stood for the Mayberry Development Group, and our project name was the Bridge at Unity Park. So here were our team members. Each team, we were given roles. So we had a project manager, marketing director, financial analyst, stakeholder liaison, and myself as a site planner. So just a high level details about the project. We wanted to create a mixed use, mixed income community, 4,000 square feet of commercial space. And we had a unit mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, 91 units, and 31 of those were affordable at 40, 60, and 80% AMI. It was important for all the groups, including ours, to really highlight the history of the site. That I'll show exactly where it is. But I just want to highlight this one box here where it says Mayberry to Meadowbrook. As we know, or most of you will know, the park was segregated back in the day. And so it was again important to bridge that. So West Greenville to southern side, past to present, and segregation to unity. Here is the site information. So in this top box here, we show it's about 2 acres. The star again labels exactly where it is. So it's facing Meadow Street, the parcel that we are proposing, that we propose this project to be on, facing Meadow Street and facing the park. So here we showed all 4 levels of our building. So on this ground level, in the darker gray area is where we had our parking underground. As far as our surface level parking, that was in that lighter gray area. In the purple is where we had all of our commercial space located. In the orange was all of our leasing office space. So for the remaining 3 levels, that is where we placed our residential units as well as our common spaces for those who would stay there. Here we show our parking unit mix. Again, it was a case study. So we started, I think this ask was 250 units. That was changed to allow for the groups to come up with their own density and also to meet the new standards of the development code that we put out. So again, 91 units, 30% of those set aside for affordable units. And again, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. So in this top rendering here, you can see a view of the bridge at Unity Park facing Unity Park and Meadow Street. In the second rendering here in the middle is a close-up view, again, facing Unity Park. That observation bridge and our amphitheater. We thought it very important to have a physical representation of bridging communities together, and that is why we were asked by one of the panelists, did we feel that we sacrificed units? And we felt strongly about, again, showing that physical representation of bridging communities together and creating a space for those who would actually live on the property to have space to call their own. And this bottom rendering here is a view above Oscar Street facing Miss Councilwoman Brock's house. And so we did have to go through a pro forma. This is just one screenshot from our pro forma of the sources and uses. For those who are familiar with affordable housing, it is difficult to to finance. And so there are a lot of different layers of financing. So for our group, we had, was that 6 different layers of financing. So our project cost approximately 23 million. We got a bank loan of 20 million, Greenville Housing Fund. The land actually is selling for 5 million, but in our scenario, we would ask for them to donate that land. For ourselves as a developer, again, MBY, it's not uncommon for the developer to actually put their own equity into a deal. And then Abundance Capital would give us 1.4 million, Federal Home Loan Bank, 750K, and partnering with the South Carolina Department of Mental Health, giving us 225K. Here again, I talked about doing that market analysis. It's important to, when you're starting a place, to figure out where your rents, what your rents are going to be. You have to get the scope of the land and what other properties are going for. So because again, this project is mixed use and mixed income, we had to have an affordability piece as well as market rate rent. So we showed both our market rate rents here in this bottom right corner, as well as the affordable rents over here in this bigger box on the left. And it was important to note that we used Greenville County's payment standards for our affordable rents. And so with the payment rents, they use zip codes to basically deviate what those rents would be. So here again, we have a rendering above view of the bridge at Unity Park, again, facing Unity Park. Now we'll have my colleague Liva King come up and give a few scenarios about how we can make affordable housing work for us here in Greenville.
Hey everyone, I'm Liva. I work for Packet Milliken. I'm a member of the GHA Innovation Working Group. Thank you guys for being here. So we just heard Ashawn and AD and their whole group's amazing project and how they got it capitalized and all the different layers Ashawn mentioned around the financing. And those are usually finite sources. So we were talking in a small group last week around, as we head into the small group discussion in a few minutes, how can we boil it down and really understand some of those key concepts. We can be talking apples to apples together to understand what are some of the big drivers that really can make projects happen or make projects fail, and then not allow for more unit creation. So within that, we're going to talk through 3 scenarios: a market rate scenario, kind of the typical development being built in Greenville, also on some of your materials, or a fixed income scenario using the tenant voucher rents, which Ashawn just mentioned for those zip codes, and then a more deeply affordable scenario that really uses 60% AMI rents to show, hey, if you want to do this development, what kind of housing stabilization funds do we really need to plug into these deals? And as a community, are we aware of the magnitude of those funds that are really needed? And so this is a market rate scenario. You guys will see that we're using 91 units. And again, the backbone of this is all Ashawn and AD and their groups work on their model, which is incredible. 91 units split across 1 and 3 bedrooms. We're using some more round numbers for these market rate rents here. And we can see in a typical deal might have a senior loan, so $21 million roughly, maybe a preferred equity piece, and a common equity, really investor equity, at $4 million level. And y'all can see with these market rate rents and the cost in their model, we're really at an 8% investor return. Above inflation, it's looking pretty good today. Again, not crazy rent levels, but still nothing affordable here. And we can see the need is still $4 million, and that investor is earning 8% on their money. We go to the next scenario and we introduce roughly 35% affordable units using those voucher rent levels. We see that, assuming we still have the same senior loan, we're assuming, some sort of housing stabilization fund here, which we're saying illustratively is a $5 million city grant. If we wanted to have an equity investor there, their investor return would go down to a much lower amount of 2%. And so you guys can see here, these affordable rents, right? These vouchers are for those who are at 60% and below area median income. You can see, this is a form of rental assistance payment. And so it helps the owner or the developer keep those rents higher, but even though they can house tenants who are at lower AMI levels. And so this is a way we see, we don't need a huge amount more cash stabilization fund upfront in the deal. But those rent levels, which are the tenant voucher, really keep the project cash flow buoyed. And then the third example. And last but not least, we head into the small group discussion. We wanted to show you guys, okay, if we really plugged in for 35% of these units, rental amounts that are affordable to someone earning 60% of area median income. What does that look, to the project? We wanted to make sure we could still have a bank loan and the equity investor wants to return, has some sort of, return on their money. We see that there's an additional $2.5 million need in the form of additional housing stabilization funding. Again, we're using an illustrative city grant here, but we see that when we decrease the rent levels here, we have a much larger increase in the need for upfront stabilization funds to the tune of $2.5 million. And when we think about, this is only 91 units, 35% of these are affordable. And, when we're here with GHA, we're thinking, really about 30% and below of AMI. So when we think about rental levels that are 30% and below, we see this gap need grow even larger. And so we're talking, tens of millions of dollars, which is the work that we're all doing here, the work that Goal is engaged in. But we just really wanted to put this on the screen, and it's in the back 3 pages of your handouts. So we can talk about, we think about innovation, what's new, what's on the horizon. We just are really, clear-minded about the kind of dollar levels that are really required to unlock this. It's not, $1,000 or $40,000. The need is really much larger. So just hopefully flipping through these, we can see the requirement to actually make these units get in the ground and be constructed.
Could you touch on how abundance capital was a component of innovation?
Sure. And so in Ashana's presentation, we saw, from my equity piece, right, I'm something investor equity. We heard Ashana talk about how there was abundance capital, the Greenville Housing Fund. She had some mental health funds in there. Abundance capital would be a position within this equity piece that would say, we're willing and we're trying to, promote more permanent affordability. So we're going to put this equity in up front and in turn require a lower return. And that's really helpful because that allows you to offer lower rents on day one and still have your project go forward, because your investor requirement for returns is inherently much, much lower, as they are a philanthropic platform for donor advised funds. So that's a way that we can think about future meetings and kind of innovation and other funding forms. Platforms like that really are making a huge difference in these deeply affordable deals, especially when we want to go beyond 60% AMI rent levels into really more deeply affordable rent levels. So it's really just to be a kind of visual tool for discussion. I think so.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I was blessed to see the presentation on the bridge at Unity Park, I don't know, a week or two ago, and it was awesome. And then I asked the most important question, when are we building it? And the answer was never. Who thinks we should build that, right? Somebody needs to give them 2 acres, somebody else needs to bring their checkbook, and we just need to make it happen.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna go into a table exercise, and I've got bad news and good news. The bad news is this is a super complicated conversation. The good news is there's instructions on the back of your agenda, and we have some skilled table facilitators. Raise your hand if you are a predisposed table facilitator. Okay, if you want to get around one of the table facilitators to talk through it, we're going to give you about 10 minutes to solve the world's problems. Go. So we're going to go around the room and ask 3 questions, one after the other, very quickly. So if every table can just share one thought that they had. And Lauren, if it's you one thought.
Listen, Ryan.
Not 10 minutes of time.
Piece of blitz that shut up.
All right, how about this table right here? What's your one thought from the exercise?
One thought from the exercise is we're spinning our wheels in dirt that we turned over when we tore down houses.
Okay, one thought from this table.
We got on the
train, saying that the state legislature, there's a bottleneck there, because things that are happening in Columbia are affecting what we can't even go through, so we gotta address it.
He can't hear.
Okay, great. One thought for the back table.
Ryan, can you say it from the mic so the people on Zoom can hear?
You know, I like to move around, Susan. One thought from the back table.
It's gonna take more than government to fix this. It's gonna take the whole community, the faith community, the business community, and all that.
Repeat that.
So what that table said is it's gonna take more than the usual suspects. It takes all of us from every area of our society to work together. This table right here.
And I'll piggyback on that and say that, SC Housing is the biggest affordable housing funder for small room development, as well as LIHTC and bond deals. They are not doing their job. We need to advocate as a group, both GHA, the CoC, and everyone to hold their feet to the fire and say, why aren't we getting money out the door, friends?
Hold SC Housing's feet to the fire. Thank you. Next table.
We discussed how education is key and just the growing funding that's been required to help our 0 to 3% population.
Transportation is key. Thank you. Check-in table. You got a thought all by yourself back there? None. Just there. Okay. The back table. Get creative, find new innovation. All right, table in front of you guys.
Didn't talk about the assignment, but we started talking about motel with the shelter or shelter to housing.
Motels into alternative forms of housing. Great. Catty corner right here.
Barriers, of how to get affordable housing or how to come into affordable housing.
More work on eliminating barriers to housing. Great. Next table. That's the confused table. They're going with confused. They don't see some steam.
Look at concessionary capital.
Concessionary capital. Great. Final table over here.
We said the AMI needs to be dropped 20% because most of the people they're on SSI and Social Security, they are only getting about $600 or $700 a month and at 30 or 40% AMI, they still can't afford to pay their rent.
All right, AMI needs to be dropped. And I will add to that for my own little table up here. Everybody's got a different calculation on how they're getting to that fair rental point. We need to have some agreement on that, on what affordability really means. And I'll take it a step further. We need to stop calling workforce housing affordable housing. Not the solution.
I just want to say one thing as an elected official. It is elected officials who got us in this shape. That we go, everybody just gonna take some money out of your pocket. If we do a tax on every person for affordable housing, it would still be inadequate. The reason it will be inadequate, because we don't have the people who hold the purse string at the state and federal level, as you said. The people who have the money, they hold on to it, so what they doing? They're not, when they do taxes, we're the only state that cannot even give good deduction. We cannot do it, we don't even have inclusionary zoning that says that if I build something, I've got to take care of the little people down the street, the people across the corner, and the people who have high income. If we don't ever stop acting as if everything rosy and waving at every elected official just to get on TV, I'm trying to tell you, we are going to die with this same foolishness. It will not work until they do what they're supposed to do. The city of Greenwood, we've already gotten our $10 million and then some to give. But the thing is, we're just a city, we're 70,000 people. Our county has 500,000. Work with you. Y'all, we got to do something. I can fuss and they love, they know I fuss all the time. But all I'm saying is that I got to be more than just me fussing. It's got to be you who vote for those people who are down in the federal government, who are down in the state government, who are at county council. When our former county council members keep telling us, y'all don't understand, they got a 2-year budget. If you don't get it now, you will not see for 2 years. We've got to do better.
Councilwoman Livingston, what is the changes you want to see in the world? Okay, so now we're gonna see how educated you are based on that amazing tabletop discussion. So when I say go, I want you to hold up a 1 if you do not understand at all what we're talking about, and hold up a 10 if you fully understand this and can solve the problems on your own, or a number in between. So hold up somewhere between a 1 and a 10, go. All right, I'm seeing a variety. I'm seeing some 7s and some 5s, lots of 5s. A couple of 10s, some 15s. Okay, great. Last question from me. So, man, I get to listen to this kind of stuff all the time, and I find these conversations extremely difficult to understand, right? When we get into those different models, they're very challenging. Raise your hand if you would be interested in a much longer training, understanding, and some discussion on this topic of how do we innovate for affordable housing. Raise your hand if you'd like to see that. All right, I'm gonna say that's about 2/3.
Careful, he'll bring him lunch.
And I'm passing it on to my good buddy, Bruce Forbes. Bruce, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you so much. My name is Bruce Forbes with Share and president of the Greenville chapter of the Upstate Continuum of Care, and I also serve on the advisory council for the Continuum of Care. I just want to have a few announcements for you. First of all, a lot of great information. So that's why we love having you guys come out here despite the weather, so you can get all this good information, and we want to definitely do something with it. A couple of announcements. So Greenville Homeless Alliance is going to be turning 5. Yes, kindergarten. That's right. In May. So stay tuned to announcements. I heard a rumor there might be a painting project in the future. So keep your eyes and ears open for that.
Finger painting.
A finger painting, yeah. So a lot of good things coming up for that. So please pay attention to that. Also on your table, you should have a document that looks like this. It has a big QR code. So the Continuum of Care, every 6 months, we do a training in terms of what's going on in the continuum, and the Continuum of Care are the 13 counties of the upstate and all the homeless service providers and everyone that is wanting to help end homelessness. You are all part of the Continuum of Care, whether you have signed the pledge or not. And we're going to be doing some really good information on this next training. It's going to be in Spartanburg at the First Baptist Church on May 23rd. We're going to serve lunch, but you're going to learn about what is the Continuum of Care. You're going to learn about all the different acronyms that we talk about. And then we're going to look at the strategic plan about ending homelessness coming from the federal government, and brainstorming what can we do in our communities to begin helping to end ending homelessness. So there'll be some guided brainstorming, things like that. So go ahead and register. Like I said, it's a great way to meet other folks who are in this business, and we will feed you lunch. And then finally, the next joint meeting between the Continuum of Care and Greenville Homeless Alliance is going to be on July 26th and October 25th. So keep your eyes and ears open, and place to be determined, right?
Here.
We'll be here, but we'll be here at the Prop Center. All right. So that said, we are adjourned.